Well, my name is Bill Carter, and I work with Ashoka. About 5 years ago, I began a journey, a personal journey, in response to a challenge that Ashoka had been provided to essentially look for what would be the new evolving paradigm in the field of rural development and agriculture. And so what we set out to do with the team was to elect about 100 social entrepreneurs, first in Africa and India, and then that grew to more than 200 social entrepreneurs all around the world whose work related to this field and this effort in one way or another. And what we found, the thread that we found that was really important was nutrition, and specifically nutrients. Because one of the things we discovered when we started talking to farmers, small farmers in Africa and India, was that they were malnourished. And it wasn't just the women or the men farmers, it was their children, and it was the teachers in the schools where the kids went to school, and it was their grandparents, it was everybody in the community. And we said, well, an agricultural system that's based on a group of malnourished people doesn't make any sense. What needs to change? And so what we began to do is look for the social entrepreneurs that had figured out that they needed to create a different dynamic, and not a dynamic that was informed by the usual nostrums of smallholder agriculture, but rather social entrepreneurs that had a vision of communities, their own communities that nourish, communities that understood that in order for young women and their children to be able to be effective citizens, they needed to be fully nourished, not just in terms of iron or any of the things that are typically dominated the development debate up until now, which is based on a narrow group of nutrients. Certainly not the types of food aid that's been provided, which is very energy intensive, calorie heavy, but not nutrient dense food, but rather nutrients that represent the full spectrum, that spectrum which we've been evolved to take in, and that are absolutely necessary for our cognitive faculties and our ability, frankly, to be effective citizens in the 21st century. And so what we have been doing is to find, well, what are the links? What are the links between in the community? What are the values and protocols that tie that community to its ecosystem around it? How do they relate to wild animals? How do they relate to the organic soil content? And one of the things we discovered in this process is that there's a really clear link between the health, the nutrient content of the soil, the organic content of the soil, and human health. And that in fact the science about this work has been long established but not terribly carefully followed. And so what we have come to understand as a result of this is there's an entirely new field, a new paradigm that's going to emerge in this field is going to link wellness, it's going to link farming, it's going to link soils, it's going to link the ecosystems, both in terms of their abilities to sequester carbon, where 80% of the world's carbon is sequestered, but also to deal with deforestation, and basically maintaining a strong relationship between high nutrient dense agriculture and the forests that surround them. And because one of the things we found, the social entrepreneurs have found, is that when you can create those linkages, you have a society that is nutrient replete for the first time. It is prosperous, often for the first time. It sequesters carbon, whether that's recognized by the formal development agencies or not. It manages its water resources properly, and it has a very healthy relationship to forests. And so one of the things we're seeing now among the most successful social entrepreneurs is we're seeing tribal chiefs in Africa bequesting tracts of land that their tribes own to permanent forest conservation to support these nutrient value chains that their communities are benefiting from now, that were catalyzed by the social entrepreneurs who had a vision for creating communities that nourish. And our vision for the next 5 years is to create a world, an ecosystem across the world where communities that nourish unleash all of these positive forces that create a nutrient value chain and that create a regenerative cycle in the nutrient value chain that create wealth at every step of the cycle, from the community where it lives, in the school where kids are being educated in terms of their cognitive capabilities, through to the soils, through to the products they farm, and then the biodiversity, the carbon, and ultimately the forest cover that provides that strength of biodiversity and knits and makes it possible for all of the rest of the ecosystems to function properly. Thank you.